It's interesting that a lot of people know Benjamin Franklin as a great founding father and how he presided and participated in these great congresses of politics in 76 and 87. But Benjamin Franklin also provided over great congresses of scientific inquiry that were known as scientific or philosophical societies. In fact, he founded the American Philosophical Society. And today what we have is essentially a couple experiments of the type that would be shared amongst the scientists and just curious minds in general of the time, and it became a concept behind American pride to share scientific discovery in a way that would advance the culture. So what we have here today is a collection of electrical experiments, medical experiments, and some natural sciences. So I will turn it over to Miss Sarah Franklin Bash, who is the daughter of Benjamin Franklin.
On many occasions, my father would do a lot of experiments on electricity, one of his greatest intrigues. A lot of times his experiments would be run with an electrostatic generator here, which, when turned in the correct direction, would create a current. This current could be magnified using Leyden jars. And on some occasions, he would set up a multiple lightning rods that would do the same purpose as this, creating electricity. And he'd connect them like this to this bell right here. And when the power is generated and the static begins, the bell will be magnetized and create ringing sounds. In his household, he had multiple bells set up to multiple lightning rods. And on one occasion, the lightning rods, which was reacting to a major static storm, caused a multitude of bells to ring all across the house. My mother and myself were awoken to the noise and was not able to sleep again for another 2 hours because the lightning storm did not end. Electricity was one of his major interests, but he wasn't very careful about his experiments. On one occasion, 2 days before Christmas, he was doing an electricity experiment on a turkey where he was charging it to see if it would cause the turkey to be roasted, to be eaten for Christmas. However, instead of demagnifying the 2 bolts right here, he accidentally touched it with his hand. And because we humans are electrified as well, he actually got shocked and was frazzled and almost fainted at the shock because it was so large for the turkey that he almost couldn't attend Christmas dinner because of it. And our whole family was worried for him because he never took the time to make sure that he wouldn't come in contact with any of the lightning bolts or any of the lightning rods or any of the metal that was charged. And he would often shock himself, which was one of the greater experiments. Shocking themselves in this time period was a lot of fun. And on occasions, they would actually do this for fun during parties. On one instance, the electrified Venus was utilized as a means for suitors to be sworn away by a beautiful young lady. Her father said that if a suitor would kiss her as she is charged by one of these electrostatic generators and was willing to stay with her afterwards, then he allowed her to be wed. However, the shock was so great because us humans carry electricity and can travel it through ourselves into another person without getting shocked, that all of the suitors either fainted or ran away. And this poor woman was left by herself because no one would be willing to kiss her and get the shock.
It was commonly the case in Paris, especially before electricity took the notion of being a practical science, that it was used for dalliances like this. They would string small boys from the ceiling, electrify their feet, and draw sparks from their nose to light candles and the such. And it was quite the charming parlor game. But Dr. Franklin's great addition was that he realized that the electricity that we make in the laboratory is similar to the electricity that comes from the skies. And that led to the wonderful invention to which Benjamin Franklin gained no profit of the lightning rod. At the time it was called lightning points. And they were now common all over Philadelphia and throughout the entire nation. But another interesting aspect to this, and Dr. Rush will speak to this, there were some scientists who noticed that since electricity can pass through living organisms, maybe living organisms were related to or could be cured by electricity. Care to comment, Dr. Rush?
Yes, the field of medicine was a very interesting aspect of electricity. Stories were circulating all around from electricians that patients were getting shocked and recovering sense of limbs that were believed to have been permanently paralyzed and other such incidences. In fact, one such incident was a young girl of 8 years of age in London who fell from the second story of a building, only to fall into a severe coma for several days. When the electrician heard of this severe incident, he helped revive her by shocking her. The process was done in...
It was often the case where they would just simply have ribbons connected to electric lines like this, and I would take them across my hands, to which Dr. Rush would then connect them to the apparatus, which would deliver a rather uncomfortable shock. And I personally believe that the doctors reported great success, because what was actually happening was the people were so put off by the discomfort that of course they claimed that they were cured, and they would move on to other pursuits in medicine. So these notions, there were even dentists who would apply shocks to your teeth with wands, which I would imagine would be ever more painful. But this sort of quackery led to people like Mr. Perkins, who invented electrical tractors, which we have a pair of that my associate can display. These were thought to use metal and electricity to cure people. George Washington actually purchased a pair of these, and some people insisted that it was true science. But we can compare things like this to the work of Mr. Mesmer in France, who was conducting a quackery of his own, who Dr. Franklin helped debunk. And not only was it the physical sciences, but the natural sciences as well. Thomas Jefferson was a great natural scientist who was also a presider over the American Philosophical Society. And we have one of his greatest treasures here.
Yes, Thomas Jefferson was extremely enamored with the woolly mammoth, which I have a tooth of to show today. As you can see, it demonstrates the enormous size of these creatures. People are so incredibly fascinated by these in this era that they actually have a colony-wide contest to see who can uncover an entire mammoth skeleton. And one is eventually uncovered in New York State.
It was actually assembled in the first museum in America by Charles Wilson Peale. And lucky diners could actually have dinner sitting at a dining table underneath the assembled mammoth.
Yes, the mammoth was not the only creature that impressed people at social events. However, like electricity, natural science was something that brought wonder, especially to the rich and powerful. This moose antler actually tells a similar story. Thomas Jefferson and a French gentleman named Buffon had a long-standing argument over degeneration theory, which states that all animals in the Americas are just degenerated versions of European animals. However, Thomas Jefferson sent an entire moose skeleton to Paris to be assembled in a French hotel, and it so impressed the Parisians that Buffon took back his theory and accepted American greatness.
And it was Thomas Jefferson's Notes on the State of Virginia, which was one of his greatest words put to paper, other than the Declaration of Independence, that were written to defend Virginia's flora and fauna, specifically against the theories of the French scoffers at the greatness of America. But the mammoth became a cause célèbre, the moose became a cause célèbre, even lowly things such as skunks and birds and fish that we take for granted became things that we were very proud of. So the scientific principles of the day became something that we were clearly using as a leverage for our new nation onto the world scene. And these were the sort of things that went on in the scientific societies of the day. And today we can still see that peer review and sharing of science is something that is inherent to the sciences. So we feel that understanding the bases of scientific principles like these, and that the histories of the men and women who discovered them make an esoteric field like science all the more attainable. And us, if we were to understand principles of science, technology, engineering, and math, as the president claims that are so crucial to our future, you must also understand that the stems had roots, and they could be found in Mr. Jefferson and Mr. Rush and Dr. Franklin and a host of other wonderful scientists of the 18th century.